The video you are about to see will provide you with the instruction you need to carry out a military funeral in accordance with a new law. This law produced one of the most important changes ever made to the Department of Defense policy on military funeral honors. In the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2000, Congress has mandated that
the pallbearers, please follow the family to the hearse.
Upon a request of the next of kin, all eligible veterans must receive honors when they pass on.
Present.
At a minimum, honors will be provided by a two-person uniformed military detail with the lead member from the parent service of the deceased.
Goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life.
In compliance with this new law, a veteran's military funeral must include a ceremonial folding and presentation of the flag and the sounding of taps. We'll demonstrate how to render appropriate and dignified honors to our departed veterans, whether the provider is active duty, reserve, National Guard, or members of veterans or other approved organizations. Funerals involving both casketed and inurned or cremated remains will be described separately. The funeral detail will consist of two uniformed military personnel, with at least one a member of the service of the deceased veteran who will lead the detail and present the flag to the next of kin. This service representative will ensure all the requirements for a dignified ceremony are met. The honors detail, in addition to the mandatory two-person team, may be augmented by a mix of personnel from all of the armed services and members of veterans or other approved organizations who were trained by the military for rendering funeral honors. Upon notification of the honors tasking, the service representative has a number of pre-interment responsibilities. He or she will contact the funeral director to confirm the date, time, and location of the interment service. The service representative will coordinate with the second member of the detail. Additionally, he or she will coordinate with, if available, members of veterans and other approved organizations for added elements of honor such as a firing party. The services will have trained with these organizations if they are providing additional elements. Training should include positioning, timing, safety, and proper funeral honors protocol. The service representative will check for the availability of a locally approved bugler. If a bugler is not available, a CD player will be used to sound taps. The CD player is the responsibility of the service representative. He or she should have backup batteries available to prevent any embarrassing situations. Once the service representative has everything coordinated, his or her final pre-interment activity is to train and rehearse the detail.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today? You all set?
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we should be on time in about an hour or so. Let's go up and take a look at the grave and see if there's anything we've got to worry about up here.
On the day of the
You can stand
funeral,
over
the
here.
service representative has a number of actions that must be accomplished to ensure an appropriate and dignified service. The service representative will confirm the arrangements with the funeral director. He or she will work out with the funeral director a cue for the service representative to move to the head of the grave for the sounding of taps. The funeral director will also be advised of their responsibility to direct the mourners to rise before and be seated after taps. And the folding of the flag. The service representative will confirm the participation of the second detail member and ensure the CD player and taps CD are transported to the interment site. The service representative should arrive early to make certain all the elements of the honor ceremony are ready and to rehearse. Part of the rehearsal time should include the selection of an appropriate location for either the bugler or the CD player used to sound taps. The service representative will set up and test the CD player, ensuring the unit is working properly, as well as identifying the person responsible for starting the CD. Following the civilian service, the order of the ceremony is the sounding of taps, the folding of the flag, and then the presentation of the flag. If there is a firing party, the volleys are fired before the playing of taps. Once everything is prepared, the service representative will ensure each step in the ceremony is executed properly, from the arrival of the funeral cortege to its departure. Upon completion of the ceremony, the service representative will ensure that all the pertinent information about the military funeral honors operation has been collected and later submitted via the data collection website. Now we will illustrate the two different variations of the honor ceremony based on the type of remains. There are two types of remains, casketed and inurned. Each type requires a slightly different sequence of events. First, casketed remains.
Let me see what's next on the list. So what we got to do.
I think it's where we need to place the music, and I think over here looks like a fine place to place the music.
All right, let's check it out.
The first step the service representative must take is to determine an appropriate location for the CD player or bugler. The site reconnaissance should include determining the position of the firing party if one is present. Remember, the sounding of taps is a dignified part of the interment ceremony. If a CD player is used instead of a bugler, it must be placed out of sight of the mourners, but in a location which will not degrade the sound. When using a CD player for taps, always keep plenty of spare batteries ready to cover any emergencies, and test it. The service representative will conduct a rehearsal to ensure the detail is proficient at executing the sequence of events.
Control here.
Okay.
Check out the stereo, see the volume, everything's good.
The rehearsal is a good time for a final test of the CD player. You want to make sure it will work when it's time to sound taps. The initial step in the actual interment ceremony is to get the detail in position for the arrival of the funeral cortege. The detail should be positioned near where the hearse will stop and in a manner to allow the casket to be carried past the detail as it proceeds to the grave site. The service representative commands the detail to present arms as the casket is removed from the hearse. He or she will give the command, "Order arms," once the funeral party has passed them. Note the detail turns to face the flag.
And I will dwell in the house of the Lord
When the
forever.
committal or religious
Amen.
service is completed, the service representative will assume the clergy person's position at the head of the grave, and the funeral director will have the mourner stand for the sounding of taps. Once the mourners have risen, the service representative will execute "Present Arms," and taps will be sounded. The assistant will execute "Present Arms" on the first note of taps, and both individuals will order arms upon the completion of the music. The assistant will then move to the foot of the grave, and the funeral director will request the mourners to take their seats. Next, the flag is folded. The service representative and his or her assistant will secure the flag and raise it to waist height. Be sure to take a step back while raising the flag. Once the flag is secured and raised, the detail will take 3 side steps away from the mourners. After completing the 3 side step movement, they will fold the flag. For the best fold, always fold over before taking a step. After the flag is properly folded, the detail assistant will hand it to the service representative, execute a facing movement, and then move out of sight. The flag is not presented until after the assistant is out of sight. Next, the service representative presents the flag to the next of kin.
On behalf of the President of the United States, a grateful
The
nation.
wording
and a proud
accompanying
nation.
the presentation is according to each military service's tradition, expressing the gratitude of a grateful nation. Following the presentation of the flag, the service representative will slowly salute the next of kin and then offer condolences to the remainder of the immediate family or the front row of mourners. If the next of kin does not accept the flag, then it should be given to the funeral director without ceremony. Once condolences have been offered, the service representative and detail assistant will return to the cortege arrival point and await the departure of the cortege. The service representative will order present arms as the next of kin's vehicle begins to pass their location. Immediately after the vehicle is passed, the command "Order Arms" is given.
Great job.
Why, thank you.
Prior to departing the
very happy.
cemetery, the service representative should solicit both positive and negative comments from the funeral director.
Nope, everything's fine. So see y'all later, okay? Enjoy the rest of your day.
Back at his or her home station, the service representative has one more duty. He or she must ensure the required information on the military funeral honors data collection form is submitted to the tasking organization. Next, we will detail the sequence of events when the descendants' remains have been inurned. There are some differences between this ceremony and the one for casketed remains. Please pay attention to these differences. Like for casketed remains, the first step the service representative must take is to determine a location for the CD player or bugler and the firing party if one will be participating. The service representative will conduct a rehearsal to ensure the detail thoroughly understands the entire sequence of events. Remember, the rehearsal is a good time for a final test of the CD player. You want to make sure it will work when it is time to sound taps. Once everything is ready, the service representative and the detail assistant will position themselves for the arrival of the cortege. The detail should be positioned near where the funeral party will arrive and in an area where the urn and flag will pass the detail on its way to the committal site. The service representative will command "Present Arms" as the urn and flag are carried to the committal site. After the urn and flag have passed, the detail will execute "Order Arm." At the conclusion of the committal or religious service, the service representative will assume the clergy person's position to the left of the display device, and the funeral director will ask the mourners to stand for the rendering of honors. The detail will salute as described before for casketed remains. After taps has been sounded, the detail assistant will move to a position at the right of the display device. The funeral director will request the mourners to take their seats. Once in place, the service representative will secure the folded flag from display. The detail will then take 3 side steps away from the mourners with the assistant simultaneously moving towards the service representative. The flag will then be unfolded. After the flag has been completely unfolded, the detail will raise the flag to waist height, hold it still for 2 seconds, and then refold it. The assistant will hand the refolded flag to the service representative, execute a facing movement, and move out of sight. The flag is not presented until the assistant has changed position. Next, the service representative presents the flag to the next of kin. The wording of the presentation expresses the gratitude of a grateful nation as dictated by the representative's service tradition. After presenting the flag, the service representative will slowly salute the next of kin and then offer condolences to the remainder of the immediate family or the front row of mourners. If the next of kin rejects the flag, give it to the funeral director without ceremony. Condolences offered, the service representative and detail assistant will return to the cortege arrival point and await its departure. They will render a hand salute as the next of kin's vehicle passes their location.
Hey, great job.
Thank you.
Family is very happy with it. Y'all did a really
Prior
good
to
job.
departing the cemetery, the service
No, I think
representative will
everything's
ask the
fine.
funeral director for comments about the performance of the honors ceremony. Upon arriving at his or her home station, the service representative will ensure that the required military funeral honors data collection is completed and submitted. It is the sacred obligation of each military service to honor our deceased veterans. Perform these time-honored duties in the best tradition of the descendant service. Some simple yet important points for the service representative to remember. Always arrive at least 30 minutes before the commencement of the service. Always rehearse the ceremony. Always be prepared, especially when using a CD player, to sound taps. Test the CD player, and have extra batteries on hand. Remember, when presenting the flag to the next of kin, the wording can vary by the tradition of the descendant service, but it always must include,
on behalf of the President of the United States and a grateful nation.
You are the select representatives for a most hallowed event. Your dignified participation reflects not only the professionalism of your military service, but leaves a lasting impression on everyone present, a source of pride and support for the veteran's family, friends, and the nation.